I just want it to be good. What's up, guys? So lately there have been some unsubstantiated rumors that Halo Combat Evolved is getting a remake. Now, for me, this is an interesting idea because if you must know anything about me, you should know that I am a giant Halo fan. I started playing Halo Combat Evolved on the original Xbox when I was 7 years old, and I've been a fan ever since. In fact, I play through the entire Halo series at least once or twice a year. It's pretty much my comfort game. But Halo CE, especially, I have played so many times that I could almost do it with my eyes closed. So, a possible remake is an interesting idea to me because it might give me a new way to experience one of my favorite games. We have definitely seen some remakes that have been done very well, and we've also seen some that have been done very poorly. So, I want to talk about some things that this longtime Halo fan would like to see in a Halo CE remake. By the way, most of the gameplay I show in this video is from the Anniversary Edition on the Master Chief Collection, because I do plan on doing a full video on the original Halo Combat Evolved here pretty soon that will mainly show the original graphics. Anyway, moving on. Starting off is actually one of the biggest complaints they had with Halo Anniversary, which for those who may not know was just a remaster of the first game. But one of the biggest complaints with that was a change in the art style. While it did enhance the graphics, and the graphics do look good in my opinion, but they changed the art style significantly to where the environments are much brighter, there's pretty much lights on everything. Anniversary added a lot of brightness to the graphics. It added a lot of unnecessary details to the structures and character models. That all kind of added up to change the overall tone and kind of the personality of Halo Combat Evolved. What I loved about the original Halo was that there was a sense of mystery and grittiness to it. For a lot of the military models, they took inspiration from the Aliens movie. And for some of the environments, like Halo itself, they took inspiration from sci-fi stories like RimWorld. But the game had this feeling that you were really exploring the ruins of an ancient civilization. Like there was really like a mystery to uncover there. You didn't really know that much about the Covenant. You didn't really know that much about Halo itself. And the art design really sold that feeling. Exploring the structures on Halo, they were usually covered in shadows, fog, and it just again added this sense of mystery and kind of overall creepiness that was really lost in the anniversary version because they threw lights on everything, and once you could see everything, it wasn't that much of a mystery anymore. So I think a remake would do really well to get back to that original art style. Obviously, they would update the graphics and everything, but I think if they can just get back to that art style, they would really bring back that sense of what made the original Halo so special. As I've said in other videos before, the personality of a game is very important, and if they can just maintain that original personality that the old game had, with a focus on the mystery and wonder of being on the Halo. And kind of keeping with the theme of the graphics here, if they do a remake, one thing I would really like to see them bring back is blood. Over the years, Halo has consistently been marketed to a larger and larger audience. As you know, gaming industry has been obsessed with the modern audience, but Halo hasn't really fallen too much into that kind of trap. What they've done is just kind of watered things down to appeal to a much broader audience and also a much younger audience. So things like blood and gore have been toned down a lot. Now, the original game wasn't really that gory, but it did have a lot of blood. You could hit an alien or even a human, and you can just keep on whacking their dead body, and a bunch of blood would come out. To me, this isn't that big of a deal, especially when you're considering aliens. Like, they're aliens, bro. Don't they know we're the only ones made in God's image? But really, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think it's overly violent or over the top. You didn't see like crazy dismemberment or anything like that. We've seen games get much worse than that. Because while Halo is a sci-fi game, it is also a military game at heart. And I think just adding some of that grittiness back with just a little bit of blood would really again just add to the personality of the game with that overall gritty art style. And then a couple other things that they need to get back to with being consistent with what made the original game special. Number one is co-op. They need couch co-op. I play Halo with my wife. She has played every Halo with me except for Halo 5 and Infinite because there's no couch co-op. I remember long nights of playing with my friends and my brother, and those are just some experiences that I really miss. And like I said, I enjoy playing this game with my wife too. I still have friends that I do see in person. Not everything's done online. And it's kind of annoying that games just don't do couch co-op anymore because it's something that I think a lot of people really miss. and it was a staple of Halo at one time, and I think it would really earn a lot of goodwill with some fans if they would bring it back. And then another fundamental part of the original game that they absolutely have to have, at least for 2 characters, they need to have the original voice actors, Steve Downes and Jen Taylor. Because with this being a remake, not a remaster, it is very possible that some of the voice actors might be replaced, such as what happened with some of the Resident Evil remakes. If they do replace some of the voice actors, it just can't be Master Chief and it can't be Cortana. Their voices are too iconic. As far as I know, they actually did try to replace Steve Downes in Halo Infinite, and just nobody else has the same voice. And I do understand that, they're not going to be around forever, but Halo Combat Evolved is just way too iconic, and their voices are way too iconic, and they absolutely have to be in the remake. It just won't feel like Halo without them. Now, moving on to some other things. While I would not be against a one-to-one remake, kind of like the Dead Space remake, I know they changed some things, but it's pretty damn close. I actually wouldn't mind them changing some aspects of the game. Now, I know some Halo fans are already kind of cringing at things I might say, but just hear me out, all right? I have played Halo Combat Evolved so many times since it first came out that I could really almost do it with my eyes closed. At this point, I'm really almost just running through it, almost like I ran through your mom. I'm sorry. Talking about Halo brings out the Xbox Live in me. Anyway, the point is, I've played it so many times that it's no longer a fresh experience, and the game is over 20 years old. I would like to experience it in at least a slightly new way. So I think they should change the map layouts a little bit, just slightly, not too much to where it looks unrecognizable, but little things here and there. Maybe a different route to find the survivors on Halo, or the way the hallways are laid out in Pillar of Autumn, because the OG Halo, it does have some map design issues that just kind of haven't aged very well. For instance, you'll play through the control room and then you completely backtrack in Two Betrayals. Now, I understand Two Betrayals has the Flood and adds the Banshee section, but I think just a few small tweaks to the layout could really keep that area feeling fresh and, at least maybe keep some Halo veterans on their toes. Tell me you wouldn't be a little freaked out if that Rocket Flood on Two Betrayals isn't where he usually is. So yeah, I think just little changes like that, just change the placement of an enemy, change the layout of some hallways. Again, stick with the same art style, stick with the overall feel of the level, but just kind of change the layout a little bit so people take a different route than they're used to doing. Like I said, I played it hundreds of times by now, and I always find myself just kind of just coasting through it and taking the same routes. I think if they just tweak it a little bit, that'll add something fresh to somebody who's been playing it for 20 plus years. Now, speaking of some gameplay changes, and I know this is kind of a controversial topic, but I'm going to just go ahead and say it. I think Sprint belongs in Halo. Once again, hear me out. Now, when I play the original Halos, I don't necessarily miss Sprint, but if you compare it to more modern games, it is definitely starting to show its age. So they either need to go one of two ways. They either need to speed up your average speed, kind of do it like Doom 2016, or you put in Sprint. Now, in Halo Infinite, there's a lot to complain about, but in my opinion, it does have the best movement out of all the Halos, and I think a great way to bring Halo Combat Evolved into a more modern era of gaming, it would be to update the movement. So if they just kind of ported that same movement style from Halo Infinite over to Combat Evolved, and I know this is kind of a controversial opinion amongst Halo fans, but again, I just think that'd be very important for bringing it into a modern era. I love Halo and I don't want to see it die. So people do need to stop being so overprotective of it to the point that you strangle it to death. So little quality of life things like modernizing the movement is not that big of a deal, not that big of a compromise for a remake. Then, of course, there's other quality of life things that they could do to just kind of make it consistent with the other Halo games. For instance, in the original Halo, you couldn't use the energy swords or the fuel rod cannons. The swords would dissipate and the fuel rod cannon would blow up before you could use it. You were eventually able to use them in Halo 2 and so on. Then also Halo 3 added the ability to tear off turrets and carry them around as a heavy weapon. And I think that would also be kind of cool to have in a Halo CE remake. to, again, just keep it consistent with the other games and, just, again, make it all around more fun. I think the sandbox style of the original game is a very important aspect to keep around, and these kinds of things add to that sandbox, and so I think it'd be important to add to a remake. Also, when you're showing Halo to somebody for the first time and they see that energy sword dissipate in front of them and not get to use it, it kind of just tends to annoy them. I would rather a new Halo fan be able to just enjoy all the things that are cool with Halo, and using a sword is one of them. Now, moving on to the last thing that I would want in a remake, and this has to do with the overall plot. I do not want them to change anything with the main plot of Halo. Don't Halo TV series it, okay? Stick with the tone, stick with the main story beats. If they do change some of the dialogue, please don't drastically change it. Definitely don't change any of the cool one-liners. But what I do think would be cool and interesting is if they added a little bit to it. So like I said, I'm a big Halo fan, and I've also read the books. If you haven't read the books, highly recommend them. They're very good. Start off with Halo Fall of Reach. It's a little different from Halo Reach, the game, but it's very good. Highly recommend it. But there is another book called Halo the Flood by William C. Dietz. And it's essentially a novelization of Halo Combat Evolved, but it has a much more fleshed out story that you don't see in the game. For instance, in the book, there's a whole contingent of ODST troopers that you never see in the game, led by Major Silva, a character that's not in the game. And this would be an interesting kind of side plot, or maybe even some extra side missions that aren't going to take away anything that the original game had, but it would add a little bit more to kind of flesh out, the kind of troops that were on the Pillar of Autumn and some of the other operations that were going on while Master Chief was doing his stuff. While I do love the Halo games and I've been playing them most of my life, it's really the books that made me love the Halo world. And that is one of the few things that I think 343 has actually done a decent job of trying to implement some of the stuff from the books into the games. While their execution of this hasn't always been great, I do really respect the effort of trying to bring that lore into the mainline games. So it would be cool to see a little bit more of that fleshed out story that is fleshed out in the book already, which is canon. It would serve to show more casual fans the very interesting and fleshed out world of Halo. And who knows, maybe we can even get some side missions or maybe even a future add-on that covers First Strike, which for those who don't know is a book that covers the events between Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2. And it's a very good book as well. Again, highly recommend it. You should just read anything by Eric Nyland. He just writes really good Halo. But yeah, the world of Halo is a very interesting place, and I think Halo Combat Evolved, at the time it came out, the world wasn't really that fleshed out. With a remake, they have an opportunity to really add some of this lore in that I think people would be really interested in, and I think it would just add to the overall value of the game. Again, as long as it doesn't take away from anything. Because all I'm advocating for here is for them to just add things that are already canon. Just show it in a main game is really all I'm asking for. So it's not going to change anything. It's not going to hurt the game. It's not going to hurt the story. It is just bringing what's already the Halo story, and it's just showing it to more casual fans. Now for the final thing, and this is actually a question my wife had asked me way before the Halo show had come out, and I was just kind of like reading rumors about it. This was before we really were going to know if it was good or not. And she asked me, what do you think a Halo show needs to be good? And I said, it just needs to remember why people loved it in the first place. So for a remake, and I understand a lot of people are feeling kind of uneasy about it because, it's hard to trust the video game industry these days. It's hard to trust a lot of these creatives that they kind of just shit all over, the IPs that you really love. But if they just remember why people loved Halo in the first place, the mystery of it, the fun, the sandbox style, the bringing people together on couch co-op, the world, the story, the characters, the voice actors, if they just remember why people loved Halo in the first place, it will be popular and it will be successful. I can almost guarantee that. I understand since 343 took over that Halo's been on a bit of a downswing, but Halo is still very popular. It still has a lot of life in it. He's not dead! Fans are just eagerly waiting for something to be good. They want to latch onto something. They want more Halo. They just want good Halo. And again, if you just remember why people loved it in the first place and you stick with what worked before, I think you'll have a good Halo remake, and I think Halo could have a bright future. Hopefully 343 thinks about that for whatever follows Halo Infinite. But there are too many people who love Halo. I mean, just look at, the show. The show was bad, and it was one of the most popular shows on Paramount Plus. But Halo Combat Evolved was one of the most popular games of all time, and it was a revolutionary game. If they just get back to what works, if they get back to what Halo is, this game will do well.
We gotta give the people what they want.
That's what I hope anyway, because I love Halo. Anyway, those are the things I hope to see in a remake, but why would they listen to me? I have less than 1,000 subscribers. But you, dear viewer, can help with that. So if you like this video, go and like and subscribe, and maybe watch another one.
Shut them down. We'll need them later. Fancy a look?